be on the challenge website, which I just posted. The only thing that's not on the challenge website right now is basically I'm going to screen share and basically do a video of some of the stuff that I think you guys might need further explanation on, because some people don't like to read. But everything you need to know is going to be in here. And then the other thing, tonight I'm basically going to go through the 5 most popular fitness apps and really explore them and go through them. And then I'm going to basically screen share and show you guys which ones I think are the best for what we need to use them for the macro counting. You don't need them, but if you're like real tech junkie and you want to use that, go for it. So tonight I'm going to show you 3 different ways to count your macros, because the way we count macros is definitely changing, and that's going to be the hardest thing for you guys. But just like phase 1 or your first initial challenge, initially counting the macros for like 70% of the people was like way up here. And then once you got it, you're like, all right, that's simple. So it's going to be the exact same way. You're going to have frustration your first meal plan, your first day of making meals, but after that, it's going to be simpler and simpler and simpler. And then the more basic you make it, it's going to be second nature. So all of you by now should have sent in phase 2 initial eval. So if you haven't done that yet, please send that in. Kylie is bigger and stronger than all of you, so I would not want to make her mad. So make sure you do that so you can get your macros back, so you can start making your meal plans, because honestly that's going to be the most time-consuming thing from the get. The biggest thing that we just need to know is if you have any type of health ailments, and that's about it. Other than that, your macros are going to be based off your metabolic test. Anybody who hasn't done their metabolic test, then you were supposed to go tomorrow. Hopefully you got my email. I want to kill Core right now, but obviously they live in, I think, Utah, so I can't really do that. So
Mormons.
we were supposed to get, we were supposed to get the testing supplies today, and now they're not. And I paid $200 so we could get them today, and now they're not coming till tomorrow, and I don't know what time tomorrow. So some people hate me, and I'm just gonna be okay with it. All right, so the biggest thing is the shift in macros, and some people are like, why are we shifting macros? I love counting direct macros, and you guys are really good at it. The problem with direct macros, and I've kind of sent this out in many emails, is we can't account for necessarily the foods that you eat. So we do have a buffer that we give you a couple extra 100 calories that we account for indirectly, but if you guys are eating way off the list, or you're choosing foods that have a lot of indirect macros, we can't account for those. So I've had clients that eat 700, 1,000 extra calories a day that we're not accounting for, but technically they're counting direct macros and technically they're on the plan. Now by going to all macros, whether you eat off the list or whatever it may be, we're counting everything, so we can give you very specific macronutrient requirements. Even if you eat a piece of chocolate but you count it correctly, you're going to be fine. So there's going to be more flexibility in the foods, but the biggest part is we really want to hone in your exact macros and your exact calories based on your unique metabolic needs. So everyone's doing a metabolic test. Everyone has a different resting metabolic rate. You can take a 150-pound person, which everything would be based off of, and you could get 4 or 5 different resting metabolic rates. You might have somebody who has very low metabolism that needs 300 or 400 calories less a day, and then you might have somebody with super high metabolism that's going to need more calories per day. But based off, without doing the testing, all of you would be prescribed pretty much the exact same amount of macros, and it's going to take us, the person that has a very low metabolism, they might be overeating, and then somebody with a high metabolism, they might be undereating. So we're doing both of them a disservice. And now we're going to be able to give you very accurate macros based on your unique metabolic rate. And then the other thing that we factor in is going to be your body type. So some of you who are endomorphic tend to not do so well with a ton of carbohydrates, so you need to limit your carbs. People that are ectos, tall, skinny, have very fast metabolisms, can handle a ton of carbohydrates. Obviously you guys shouldn't be on the same nutrition plan. So you guys are going to be completely different. Same as phase 1, but now we're really dialing it in. And then the great thing for your coaches is we can make very small incremental changes and be very confident in the changes that we're making. Sometimes with the coaches, we might lower your macros, but then you choose foods that have more indirect calories and we're at the same place anyways. And you feel like, man, I just reduced all my food and I'm still not losing. That's not going to happen anymore, and we're very confident that when we do make the changes that you're going to be able to keep responding to those changes. Does that make sense? So that's kind of why we went that route. Now, we don't let everyone do phase 2. We make you go through the initial challenge, do phase 1, and then you can do phase 2, because not everybody's ready to do phase 2. It does take a little bit extra work, and I think the counting's a little bit more difficult, so we don't want people that are like brand new going straight to phase 2 and they'd be completely overwhelmed. You guys have gone through the challenges, so you guys are ready to do that. Now, with saying that, if you don't feel confident, like you're a couple weeks in and the new counting, the new way of things is really frustrating you, and you just feel more confident and better about doing kind of the phase 1 counting, tell us and we'll go back to phase 1. So, but really give phase 2 a fair chance and try it. There is increased flexibility and different things that I think help make it more of a lifestyle and something you can stick with after the challenge is over. But if you feel like phase 1 is better for you, then go back to phase 1 and we will do that. Again, it's not going to be as accurate, but most of you probably had great success on phase 1 and that's why you're doing phase 2. So phase 1 works. Phase 2 is just a little bit more specific, and we can guarantee that you guys are going to get great results with it. Now, expectations. So phase 2, yes, we're doing metabolic testing. Yes, we're doing more advanced stuff. But the results, we're still expecting 1 to 2 pounds of body fat a week. So it's not like now you're going to lose 10 pounds a week because now we have all these cool gadgets and we're doing counting every single macro that you're putting in your body. It's not going to work like that. You're still 1 to 2 pounds a week unless you're heavier. It's all relative. So keep that in mind. And I want you guys' expectations to be, if I lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's a win. Over, obviously, 12 weeks, that's a lot of body fat lost. And our goal for most of you is by the end of phase 2, you're going to be at a place that you want to be, and then phase 3 is more going to be maintenance, or if we still have more to lose, then we just keep continuing on with that. All right, so I get a lot of questions like, how are diets created? Where do these numbers come from? How is this stuff created? So a lot of it is just, it's based on obviously your body type and then what's optimal for fat loss. So I've been studying fat loss for forever and following a lot of people and spent a lot of money and time mastering the craft of this stuff. So it's not like some numbers that are randomly selected, but protein, obviously we want it high enough so that you guys are maintaining lean muscle tissue or building muscle tissue. And then obviously protein is great for, when you guys eat protein, you actually burn more calories than when you guys eat carbohydrates or fats. So there's a big thermic effect of eating protein, so it's important to keep protein high, and obviously if protein's high, we're going to reduce carbs and we're going to reduce some of the fats. So we need it high enough, but we don't want it too high where you're just like, oh, I'm eating so much protein. So you'll find on phase 2, you're probably eating less protein than you were on phase 1. So some of you will like that, especially if you're endomorphic. The protein requirements have been reduced, and we've basically based it off your kind of estimated lean body mass. So you'll find that the protein requirements are less. And 2, now you're going to be counting the carbohydrates, the proteins in your carbohydrates. You're going to be counting the proteins in your fats. So your direct sources of protein are going to go down as well. So maybe your food bill goes down. So one of the good things. Carbohydrates. Now, if you want to lose weight extremely fast, obviously the first thing you do is reduce carbohydrates. But that's not a long-term solution. We want to give you enough carbohydrates to give you energy during your workouts, keep your metabolism elevated, but we have to keep them low enough that you're able to optimize your body's ability to burn fat. So it's a really happy medium, and based on your body type is going to determine how many carbohydrates you guys can handle and how much carbohydrates you should be eating, and then fat intake. So obviously we need to keep fat intake high enough that we keep hormonal balance. If our fat intake goes too low, then your hormones are going to be way out of whack. So we need to keep it high enough that they'll stay happy. And obviously if your hormones are happy, you're going to be losing more body fat and you're not going to go crazy. Maybe lose your hair. Now, veggies. Veggies, you guys, free veggies, and we're going to go over the rules in a second. You guys get free veggies as well. We've accounted for your free veggies in your macros, so we've actually reduced your carbs a little bit. Whether I should tell you that or not, I don't know. But with counting all macros, if I say you have a choice between a potato and a veggie, and they count the same, you're probably going to go with the potato over the veggie, right? So we still want you eating vegetables at every single meal. So the free veggies on the list, you can eat those as much as you like, and we really want you to eat vegetables at every single meal. So that's kind of how we create your diets. It's optimized to you, and what's great about it is it's not going to be spot on the first time we do it. Some of you, 100%, it works from the get-go. Some of you, we're still going to have to adapt a little bit and change as you go. No diet works forever, so as we go, we have to make small incremental changes, which is a lot easier in your coaches in phase 2 than it was in any other phase that we've ever done before. Challenge rules. So the rules, pretty much the same as last time, but a little bit different now that we're counting everything. So half your body weight in water. A lot of you can do that easily now. I would encourage you, we're going to talk about fiber intake in a little bit. I would encourage you to keep upping your water intake. You really can't have too much water. So keep upping that water intake. Track everything. So now literally every single thing that goes in your mouth needs to be tracked. You do not need to count your free veggies. I still want you tracking that and tracking the fiber intake because I'm going to give you guys a goal to hit. But literally, if this is going to work, you have to track everything that goes in your mouth, or else what's the point? So everything you eat, count. 90% rule. So our goal, if you can stick to the list like every other challenge, the list is the most optimal foods you can be eating for your health and for fat loss. So that still applies where it's eat off the list. When you're making your meal plans, you should be eating off the list. We'll talk about flexible dieting in a minute, but 10% of the time would be the max that you would be eating off the list. So there is going to be more flexibility, but really eat the foods off the list if you want to have the most optimal results over the 12 weeks. But our goal is to transition into making this a lifestyle. So one of the things we want to change is the good, bad. Like if you eat bad, all of a sudden your diet's over and you might as well go eat a large pizza because you ate a piece of chocolate. Like we're trying to avoid that. So 90% of the time you need to be eating the foods off the list. 100% is optimal, but there's a little bit more leeway. Cheat. So we're going to have a cheat meal every 2 weeks. So last time in phase 1, people didn't like if the coach dictated when your cheat is. As long as you're obviously on plan, then plan on having a cheat meal every 2 weeks. So usually Saturday night works the best for everybody. Now with your macros, our goal is to feed you the most amount of food humanly possible. There is going to be diet flexibility, so if you eat a piece of chocolate, it's okay. It's not like you cheated and now you got to restart your diet over again. So you're not going to feel deprived where you're like, oh my God, I need to go eat pizza. I need a cookie. You shouldn't feel that way. So you're not going to feel deprived. You're not going to have weeks where like, oh my God, my energy is so low and I just need food. You won't have that, but the part of the cheat meal is just the mindset part of I don't have to track every single thing that goes in my mouth. I can go out with my friends, I can have a few drinks, I can eat some food, not worry about it, feel like I have a normal life. So it's more of the mindset benefit than it is the physiological benefit. You're not going to really have too much of physiological need to have a cheat meal. So because you guys aren't going to be in a huge calorie deficit, you're going to be eating more food than you probably think you should be. Fiber, so we've never really tracked fiber on your guys' stuff. If you're eating vegetables at every single meal and you're eating off the list, you're probably getting enough fiber, but this challenge, we want you to really track how much fiber intake you're actually taking in. Now, it's another thing to track, right? You're like, oh, another thing to track. If you don't feel comfortable tracking the fiber at first, don't worry about it, just count your macros. Like I don't want you stressing out about the fiber and then you're not counting your macros because you're stressing out about fiber. So women, the goal is to get 30 to 35 grams of fiber. If you're eating vegetables at every meal, you're eating off the food list, it should be pretty easy to do. And then men, it's going to be 40 to 45 grams of fiber. So that's kind of something new on this plan. But fiber is so important for your health. It's really important for fat loss. So tracking it is a good thing to be doing. And also, it'll make you kind of look at your food choices too. Some food choices have a lot more fiber. Usually the more simpler it is and stuff you're probably going to be eating off the list, it's going to be avoid of nutrients and devoid of fiber. So if you're eating off the list, like I said, you should be fine. Veggies, again, same concept as last time. If it's a free veggie, don't count it, but when you're tracking, I would track it, but don't count it towards your macros. But I want you to see how much fiber you're intaking, because if you're not counting or tracking your veggie intake, then it's going to show your fiber is super low, and we don't want that. So track it, but don't count it. Does that make sense? Fat intake. So one thing that we've never really given you is very specific goals for essential fats. So either it's going to be fish oil or it's going to be krill oil. So in the guide, we want you getting 2 to 3 grams of EPA and DHA. So on food labels, on the back of it, like they come in grams or whatever on the front, but you're not worried about that. You're worried about how much EPA and DHA you're getting. So the goal is to get 2 to 3 grams of EPA and DHA. So it may be 5 grams of fish oil that you need to take in each day to get that amount. Every fish oil, krill oil has a varying different amount. So when you're looking at the quality of one, usually in 1 gram of fish oil, if it's obviously higher in the EPA and DHA, it's probably a higher quality product than other ones. So I can't just say take 5 grams of fish oil, because everything's going to be different. So you can't have too much. So 2 to 3 grams is going to be what we're going to recommend. So this time around, we're recommending getting more fiber and getting fish oil. So those are kind of 2 different things this time as well. The biggest thing you have to understand is how to count your macros, which we're going to go over kind of best practices right now, and then creating your meal plans. So you have different options of creating your meal plans. You're going to have either, you can just use pen and paper or pencil and paper if you like, and utilize the new food list or technology. Food list is similar. Don't laugh at me. I'm sensitive.
Are crayons okay?
Crayons will work too, if you want. So here's the food list. So like the last food list where we had just direct macros and then the list, it doesn't work that way now. Everything counts. So you can use the food list. If you're just sticking to the food list, that's fine. You can also use MyFitnessPal, fatsecret.com or whatever. What was it? MyFatSecret.com, I think it was. I should know, I write this stuff all the time. You can look up foods that aren't necessarily on the food list. So you can use that guide. You can just handwrite it out. That's fine. You can utilize, I created a spreadsheet for you all. I'm very proud of this spreadsheet. So with this spreadsheet, it's basically kind of an in-between of writing it out and then using some technology if you don't like doing math and having to use a calculator and figuring things out. On your spreadsheet, you'll just put in, obviously, your food and then how much protein, carbs, and fat it has in it. And what it will do is actually calculate your meal total. And then it has a running total of your entire macros for the day. On the bottom of the sheet, what you need to fill in as well is your goal macros for the day. And then on the bottom, as you fill it in, it will show you how many remaining macros you have for the entire day. So that's an option. And then this third option is going to be utilizing technology. They have apps. MyFitnessPal is usually the most common, but a lot of people that track macros tend to not like it. So I'm looking at different ones, and I want to find the most user-friendly and have the functions that we need. And one of the cool functions will be recipes, which I'll cover in a minute. Because in the past, counting direct macros and recipes was kind of hard to do. When you count all macros, it's a lot easier to do and a lot more friendly, and that's why I'm saying it's more of a lifestyle-based type thing that we're trying to get to. So that's that. I'm going to do a screen share of how to exactly use this, so this is just letting you guys know what the heck I'm actually talking about. So those are going to be your options of tracking macros. At the end of the day, you need to find what works for you. Probably whatever worked for you in phase 1 is probably going to work well for you in phase 2. The difference is it's a little bit harder to track all macros than it was to track just direct macros on a pen and piece of paper. So when you guys are doing it, so obviously, just like phase 1, just pick your foods that you like and focus on those foods. If you look at a giant food list, you tend to get overwhelmed and it just feels like too much and you get stressed out, and then that stress causes you to not take any type of action. So pick the foods that you like, and then obviously just circle them on here, and then start making your meals. Then obviously you guys are going to pick how many times a day you want to eat. So your macros are going to look very similar to phase one. If you haven't gotten back yet, they're going to look pretty much exactly like phase one, but now they're all macros. So your total macro count is probably going to be higher than it was in phase one, but now you're counting everything. So don't freak out if you see that last time you had 80 grams of carbohydrates and now you're eating 120. There's probably not any difference than what it was before, because now we're accounting for everything. So don't freak out if you see it. Phase one last time, we had a lot of people freaking out because it was so much food, it was so many carbohydrates, it was so this, and then a week later they lost 3 or 4 pounds. They're like, okay, I trust you. So just trust the process, we'll be fine. So pick how many you want, and you're going to get the exact same layout. The only thing that's changed is now we're accounting for all macros, and we know exactly how many calories that we're supposed to start you out at. Workout day versus non-workout day nutrition, the exact same as before. So you guys are going to select, if you want to be optimal, you'll do the workout day on workout days and non-workout days and non-workout days. But if you don't want to stress out about one day you're doing this plan and one day you're doing this plan, stick with one and just stick with the non-workout days. So at the end of the day, it's not like you're going to get 40% better results if you do workout day and non-workout day nutrition. Probably talking about like 5%. It's not a big deal. So pick whatever one you want. If you're really stressing out about counting macros and the changes, just do the non-workout day nutrition to start with, and then if you want to start implementing the workout day and non-workout day, do that. So the biggest thing is kind of where to start. How do I start planning my meals? And the biggest frustration is before you could just pick a food, you know exactly how much you needed, and that was your protein. But now it's going to count as, if it was a protein, now there might be fat in it. Now there might be carbs in it. Most of your proteins aren't going to have any carbs in it, except for some of your protein powders will have some carbs in it. But for the most part, if you have, I haven't found a steak yet that has carbohydrates in it, so unless it's deep fried, but you guys aren't eating that crap. So what I would honestly recommend is just start with one meal at a time. So on your guys' sheet, it gives you recommendations. Obviously, on workout days, we're putting more carbohydrates in your pre and post-workout meals. So basically, your carbohydrates are going to be higher, your fats are going to be lower, and then your other meals throughout the day, your carbohydrates are going to be lower and your fats are going to be higher. You know, we plan it that way because that's kind of more optimal and it balances out your meals. But at the end of the day, what matters is that final total. So don't freak out if your one meal you had 10 less grams of carbohydrates, and then one meal you had 10 more than what you planned for. Don't freak out. Try to stay within 5, I would say max 10 grams either direction of your stuff in your meals. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like if you end up at Pizza Hut and you had 2 pieces of pizza and it's 30 grams of protein and it's 78 grams of carbs and I don't know, I had the math somewhere, it's 30 grams of fat. That's the only reason I even know that. But and you do that, obviously you had one of your meals that was heavy and a lot of stuff. You got to make it up for the rest of the day. Don't freak out about that. At the end of the day, the final total is what matters. If you stay under that final total and you hit your macros, you are going to lose fat and you're going to hit your goals. Obviously, if you're going way over and you're over calories for the day, you're not going to hit your goals. So don't freak out about that. Now, what I would recommend, honestly, just start with one meal. If you're using this sheet, it makes it a lot easier. Start with one meal, get it close to whatever it is that we recommend, and then go to the next meal, get it close, get it close, get it close. So what at the end of the day, that's kind of where you're probably going to have to start fudging numbers a little bit and moving things around a little bit more. Like if you're at the end of the day and you have 10 grams of protein and 10 grams of carbohydrates, like obviously you're not going to have a very big meal. But it's just the way it ends up sometimes. If you overeat at one of these meals, you got to make up for it somewhere else. So just how life works. So what I actually recommend when I do all macros is I tend to actually start with the carbohydrate source. Carbohydrates are going to have protein and they're going to have fats in it. So your carb sources tend to have the most of of all the macronutrients. You won't find like a pure carbohydrate source, really, if it's a good one, that doesn't have some protein in it and some fat in it. There's not a whole lot of things that are just pure carbohydrates.